Hey guys, today we've got Henry Washington who flew in from Arkansas to my alma mater, UT Chattanooga, to talk to our real estate club. Huge turnout. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
This guy is the real deal. In 3.5, 4 years, he's grown a portfolio that's more than double mine that's taken me 2 decades to do. I mean, amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And he's such a nice person. Stay tuned for the rest of this. I'm going to try to get the entire presentation that he gave to the students today. Watch the whole thing. You'll see clips where he just likes to get back and teach others. He doesn't try to keep this to himself. He gets on the ground level with these students to say, here's how you guys can actually get started, and here's some kind of big stuff I'm doing these days. But it's practical things that people can start doing now. He talks about his bad credit. You'll see him featured on Fox News, CBS, NBC, BiggerPockets for those of you in the business. He's got 45,000 followers on Instagram. Why am I talking so much?
Yeah.
Let me ask Henry just a question or two. I'll do the favorite fours on BiggerPockets.
Let's do it.
So Henry, what is your favorite real estate book and why?
So I have a couple that I like, but when I first got started, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor was probably one that really helped the most.
Yep.
Because it did a good job of taking like the 10,000 foot view of real estate investing and putting all the terms into things that like you can understand if you weren't in the business.
Yep.
Right? And so that was the first book that I read that was like, oh, this is what a whole real estate business is like, and this is how I go find each one of these pieces that I need. And so for a beginner, that was a great tool.
That's by Gary Keller, one of my favorite books too. I tell people that book is like a one-stop shopping. If you want to get into real estate, just have one book, it's that book for me.
That's right.
What about your favorite business book, Henry?
Favorite business book? I'm more of a, emotional, touchy-feely guy.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so the book that I love that really kind of helped me was The Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
And so The Alchemist is more about a guy's journey and understanding that as long as he's focused on like his path, on his journey, then the universe will kind of get out of his way and help him become successful. And that from a business standpoint, like you're going to encounter problems and you're going to encounter things. But if you're operating in the thing that you're supposed to be operating in, if you're operating in your passion, if you're operating in your purpose, then you'll figure out ways around those obstacles. And a lot of people kind of quit when they get obstacles, and that may be because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Love it. The Alchemist. I'm going to add that to my list.
Yeah.
I heard some pieces of that in your talk today when you talked about, I just decided that I was going to be a real estate investor and I wasn't going to go figure out everything I needed to know. I was just going to start doing it and figure it out along the way.
That's wonderful.
I can see that. Okay, let's see. The other favorite fours are hobbies.
Yep. Oh, man, I used to play basketball a lot. So I was a semi-pro basketball player after college.
Wow.
I just played for fun a lot.
Who are you with?
I haven't done that as much. Man, it was a small team. I don't even think they're a thing anymore.
Okay.
We played some like.
Once you left, the band fell
that's
apart.
it, man. I just couldn't hold on now. So we played in the ABA and the CBA.
Cool.
And so basketball is definitely a hobby of mine. And then my kids, man, I've got 2 little girls.
Okay.
I've got a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And a 1-year-old.
Oh gosh, you're busy.
They are fun, man.
Awesome.
Kids make you realize things about life that you forgot and appreciate things that you kind of forgot.
Okay, last one is what separates successful real estate investors from those who are not so successful?
Mindset is huge, and I talked a little bit about this today, but
Sure.
People say you got to have the right mindset, and kind of people tune it out when they hear it. But there's so much truth to that. I made a decision early on that I was going to be a successful real estate investor. Before I knew how I was going to do it, I decided I was going to do it, right? And because I made that mindset shift, when things got hard, I would find ways over, around, or through the obstacles because I had already decided I was going to be successful. So an obstacle wasn't going to stop me. And I think too many times people say, well, I'm going to try to invest in real estate.
Sure.
Or I'm going to see how it goes as I invest in real estate. And that mindset, that's not a mindset of you're going to be successful. That's a mindset of I'm going to try. And when you say I'm going to try, when things get hard, you stop, right? Because you're not training your brain to figure out how to solve those problems. And so the successful from the unsuccessful are the people that have made a decision that they're going to do this and they're going to be successful. The ones that haven't aren't successful.
Well said. Stop trying and start doing.
Start doing. You're going to do it or you're going to do it.
Love it. This guy is an amazing speaker, by the way. Well done. Well said. And thanks for coming out and helping these kids.
Oh, man. That's, that's another thing that's mindset oriented. Was this year is one of my goals I wrote down that I wanted to get in front of more college students or younger investors to try to motivate them to share information. I didn't know how that was going to look. I didn't know where that was going to be. I just wrote that down. And then these guys approached me at the BiggerPockets conference and asked me to come speak to some students.
What's the best way for my subscribers to get in touch with you?
At The Henry Washington on Instagram. You can find me there, send me a DM.
Henry flew in, and now he's going to fly out to Atlanta to be on a podcast.
Yeah, I'll be on the Rants and Gems podcast.
So second biggest real estate podcast in the nation, I understand.
So far, yeah.
Thanks again, Henry.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing your continued success.
Very much, man.
All right,
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And the bank said, hey, Henry and Jessica Washington, we would be glad to loan Jessica Washington the money for this house as long as you, Henry Washington, are not on the loan. Your credit sucks, and you're going to bring all this down. And so that was a huge blow for me as this guy who wanted to be this provider. We wanted to buy this house. It was a great house, and we almost couldn't get it, right? So we ended up buying it. My name was not on the mortgage, and as a guy who wants to be a provider, I went to school, I got my degree. I did all the things I thought I did right, but for some reason I still couldn't be the provider. And that really took a lot of wind out of my sail. And so that was like lesson number one where I knew I needed to make some changes, right? And so after that, not long after that, we did the other thing that married couples do. Don't get your hands up together. We were talking about having kids and a future and where were we gonna live. And my wife started talking to me about like, well, where's our dream home gonna be? And I'm like, we barely got in this one. Like, I don't know how we're gonna have a dream home. We're barely here. And so I told her that we would figure it out, and I didn't know how we would figure it out. So what happened was about 3 a.m. that morning after that talk, I woke up in a cold sweat, panic attack, couldn't breathe, like literal panic attack. And so I did what most normal people do when you have a panic attack at 3 a.m. because you're not making enough money. Because I started to Google, how can I make some more money? And I kept seeing articles about real estate, and I kept seeing articles about being a landlord and flipping houses. And I've always liked real estate. I've always been that person that like goes to open houses even when you're not going to buy a house. And so I thought, whatever, cool. I'm going to buy real estate. Again, bad credit, no money. But in my mind, I was thinking I'm going to buy real estate. And then I landed on this TED Talk. This TED Talk was called How to Design Your Dream Life Through Passive Income. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, right? So how do I make money passively so that I can take care of my family? TED Talk was this kid. I don't remember the kid's name. I think his first name's Alex, but you should watch it. And he was talking about he had 25 doors and he was financially free. And it was just 25 single family homes. And I thought, well, if this kid's figured it out, well, I'm gonna figure it out, right? I literally made a decision at 3 a.m. that I was going to invest in real estate with the no money that I had, with the bad credit that I had. None of those things, to me, were gonna be obstacles. I was gonna figure them out, right? And that was the first thing. I didn't know it at the time, but that was the first decision that I made that really changed everything. Because that's what this is. Investing is a decision you have to make, right? I think a lot of people want to figure out the how. They want the whole path laid out in front of them, right? They want to know, all right, if I get started, here's how I'm going to find the properties. Here's how I'm going to finance those properties. Here's who's going to renovate those properties. Here's who's going to sell those properties for me. Or here's how I'm going to find the tenants. They want to know the whole blueprint, right, before they get started. They feel like they have all these ducks they need to lay out in a row. It's just not the way it works, you guys. It's just not, right? If you wait till you figured out everything, the how, you'll never start, right? You can ask anybody in this room who's done a deal if they knew everything before they got started, and they're all going to tell you no. You just have to make a decision that you're going to figure it out. That's how literally everything works. And so because I made that decision, what happened was when obstacles started to come up, my brain wasn't thinking, well, I can't get this done now because this thing is in my way. But because I already decided I was going to be successful. So my brain automatically started to try to figure out ways to work around those obstacles, right? So mindset, they say it all the time, right? Mindset is the key. Mindset is huge. And that's kind of like a frou-frou, fluffy thing people say, but it's true. You have to make a decision that you're going to do it. And not only are you going to do it, but you're going to be successful. And that's literally with anything in life, but absolutely with business. So the next thing that I did, and another thing that I will encourage you all to do, you're already doing it, right, is you need to immerse yourself in real estate culture, right? You're here, you're in this room, you're doing that. Everywhere there are investors in a room having a conversation, especially locally, you need to be in that room. Networking is a huge way to get a leg up in this business. It's how you find deals, it's how you find contractors, it's how you find real estate agents, it's how you find all the resources that you're looking for that you don't know how to find them. You can find them by getting in rooms like this with people like this. Because real estate investors are a special group of people. They want to see everybody else win, right? You feel like there's this limited inventory and you don't want to be in competition, but that's not typically how most investors operate, right? Most investors want to help each other out. So you need to be in the room with other investors, right? If you look at professional athletes, right? Who do professional athletes hang out with? Say it. Right, they hang out with professional athletes. Why do they do that? Because that's who they communicate with best. That's where they share information. They share trainers. They share workout routines. They share technology that they're using to get better, right? They work out together, right? They're benefiting from being around each other. Just being around other athletes makes them better athletes. You need to do the same thing as an investor. So don't just come to meetings like this. Go to as many as you can. I met my first business partner in a meeting like this, right? We just became friends, we hung out, and then as I started to do deals, he started to buy deals from me. And so he bought my first 5 wholesale deals, and then we went into business together because we had that trust. And now we own about 25 doors together, right? So he was the first key to helping me get a net worth of over $1 million, right? Just by meeting somebody in a room like this, right? There could be somebody in here right now that's gonna help change your life. Keep going to meetings, keep networking. That's how you're gonna, all the questions you have in your mind about getting started, about doing deals, there's answers in this room. Keep immersing yourself around other investors. And then, what I breezed past up there was, tell everybody you're an investor. So I decided at 3 in the morning I was gonna be an investor, and I took that seriously. Because from the next day, I started telling everybody that I was an investor. No money, didn't know how to do a deal, didn't know how to find a deal, had bad credit. But when somebody asked me who I was, like if I met a new person, I would say, hey, I'm Henry, I'm a real estate investor, and I work for Walmart and do technology, right? I put that first because I wanted people to believe I was an investor. If I didn't believe it, nobody else was gonna believe it, right? And in this world, you get what you give. That's how the universe works, right? What you put out is what you get. So if you're gonna be an investor, if you wanna do deals, just start telling people you are that, and you'll be surprised at the doors that open and the opportunities that come your way. Also, real estate investing, HGTV has made it like this sexy business, right? People want to be into it, they don't know how to get into it, they just think they just think everybody's a millionaire, and so like it's this sexy business. And so when you tell people you're a real estate investor, it makes them ask you questions, right? And then asking you questions opens the door for you to determine that this is somebody that could help you in some way, shape, or form along your path, right? You could be talking to somebody who's going to be your next private money lender. You could be talking to somebody who's going to know somebody who could be your next private money lender, or the person who's going to sell you the next deal, right? So introducing yourself as an investor opens the door for opportunities. So don't downplay the fact that you're an investor, right? Put it out there for people. Say it with confidence, and you'll be surprised at the doors that opens. So we'll talk a little bit about this. So what I do in my business is, so I'm mainly a buy and hold investor. I've got almost 70 rental properties. But, so if I have to pick a niche, that's what I tell people that I do. But as a real estate investor, you're trying to take a property, right, piece of property, and you're trying to buy it under market value, right? And then you're looking to add value to it by fixing it up or by renting it out, right? And then you sell it or rent it for a profit, right? That's essentially the key to real estate investing. Doesn't matter what strategy you use. So if you're gonna rent, if you're gonna flip, if you're gonna wholesale, if you're gonna wholetail, it doesn't matter your strategy. You have to be able to find good deals in order for any of those strategies to work. And if you ask most investors, well, let's ask, show me the hands again, who's done a deal? What was the hardest part about getting ready to do your deal? Finding it. Most investors feel like finding a deal is the hardest part about investing. And so it's just like any other business. You're in a business to solve a problem. And so as I started going to these real estate investment meetups, I kept hearing investors say, there's no good deals, it's hard to find deals, there's no good deals. And so I said, cool, if I can get good at that, I'll never have to worry about money again because I got a room full of people who want to buy good deals. So My business is focused on finding good deals. That's what I do. I market for off-market deals consistently and relentlessly. And I take all the leads that come in and I monetize them. Some I keep as the best ones that I love the most, that have the most cash flow, I keep as rentals. The rest, I either flip, so I'll do a remodel, or I'll do a wholesale, which is basically I'll buy it, I'll send somebody in there to clean it out, and I'll stick it back on the retail market without doing a renovation. Or you can wholesale it, right? You can find somebody who you can assign the contract to. Every deal that you get is money. And so I tell my students, don't just be an investor in whatever niche you are. Get good at finding deals and then pick and choose the ones that fit your niche for you to keep and monetize the rest some other way. Because every deal is money. So become a deal machine, right? That's how I've grown my portfolio so quickly. It's because I market and I market and I market and I make offers and I make offers and I make offers and I keep the ones I like and I make money on the rest. And that has been the lifeblood of my business. And so I look at it as let's call it what it is, it's a money machine, right? So if you've got this machine where let's say I spend $5,000 a month on marketing, right? Sounds like a lot. And that $5,000 a month nets me 50 leads that I get and I vet. And of those 50 leads, I look at 20 of those houses and I make offers on 20 houses because you should make an offer on everything you see. That's another thing I tell my students. A lot of people, they get a lead and they kind of half evaluate it because they don't think it's a good deal. And then they go look at it and then they go, they're probably not going to want to take what I'm going to offer them for it. And so they walk away. That's what most people do. If you want to be successful, you can't do what most people do, even most investors. So if you go look at 20 houses, make 20 offers. Let's say you go look at a house and the guy says he wants 75 for it, and you know you can't pay more than 50, and you go, well, I'm not making him an offer of 50, I'm not trying to get cursed out, and he's not going to take it, right? So you leave. And then you go look later on the county records because you see there's a dumpster in front of that house, and you go pull it up, and somebody paid 50 for it, but you didn't make your offer, right? So you make an offer on everything because you never know what somebody's going to take, and money talks. Even though somebody says they want what they want, when you write a contract and put it in their hand, that's money to them, and it starts talking. And so they take it home and they go to sleep, and they're like not wanting that offer, and then they start thinking about what they can do or buy or what problems they can solve with that money that you offered them. You might get a call back in a week and get that deal. So make offers on everything, everything, even if you think they're not going to want it, right? Because that could be your next deal. So we make, say you spend $5,000 on marketing, you get 50 leads, you go look at 20 houses, you make 20 offers, you land 4 deals. And those 4 deals, let's say you're not going to keep them. Let's say they're going to be wholesales or hotels. Let's say you make 20 grand a deal, right? So 80 grand. So you spent 5 grand on marketing, and then you made 80 grand dispositioning those deals. Who wants to spend 5,000 and make 80? There's only 2 people in the room that would spend 5,000 to make 80. And y'all are in the wrong room. I'll spend 5,000 to make 80 every day of the week, right? So your it's a money machine. That's what I figured out that I had. So instead of thinking, why am I spending so much on marketing? What am I thinking now? How can I spend more on marketing? Right. The more you feed the machine, the more money it makes, right? So never turn that machine off. That's the lesson I learned in the beginning. Because the first thing I did when I got a couple of deals and my plate was full is I stopped looking for deals because I was like, I can't take on anything else. I don't have the contractors, I don't have the money. This is overwhelming, and I stopped. And then when I needed to get started again, like marketing is like a snowball. It's hard to get going. But then once it's going, it kind of works for itself. And so never ever stop, right? If you've got a machine that you put in 5 and you make 80, why would you stop feeding it? Never stop feeding it. Doesn't matter how big your plate is. As long as you're in rooms like this, as long as you're networking, somebody in here, you saw a quarter of this room has done deals. They're looking for more. So if you're good at finding them, you'll make money, right? We can talk about financing later. But here's 2 soft skills that I want to make sure people understand, because we're talking a lot about money. But I want to make sure that we don't miss the fact that one thing I learned through investing in real estate is that solving problems and being of service to people is going to make you money, and it's going to I mean, in all honesty, it's going to make you feel good, right? So when you think about buying properties under market value, what you're really doing is you're buying a situation. You're buying a problem, right? Or else, why else would somebody want to sell you a property under market value, right? Why would they say, I'm willing to take a loss on this property to sell it to you? And the answer to that is because they probably have some situation that requires them to take a loss in order for them to fix a situation or problem, right? So I bought homes from people who had family members overseas that they had to go see and didn't have any other way to make the money. I bought properties from people who there was so much distress on the property, they couldn't call a realtor. Realtors wouldn't touch it. The market wasn't as hot as it is now. Realtors wouldn't touch it, or they wanted them to just fix too much. They didn't have the money or the effort to put into it, and so they would sell it to me so that they could go do what they needed to do. I've had people who, a house I just bought, the gentleman, he bought it for him and his wife. They lived there for years. His wife passed away. He moved his daughter in, and she was literally destroying the house. She was hoarding, there was mold, it was bad. And he didn't have the heart to put his daughter out, but he had to sell it because he had expenses that he had to pay left over from his wife's death. And there was nothing he could do. And so he sold it to me so that I could take care of, even though we didn't have to evict his daughter, we found her another place to live. But you're solving problems, right? You're helping people out of tough situations. And so I always try to remember that when I go look at houses. We talked about going to look at houses and making offers. So I will go look at a house, and when I walk in the door, I'm not thinking this is a deal that I need to close. I'm thinking, how can I be of service to this person across from me? What do they need? How can I help them get what they need? If that means me buying their house, we'll go that route. But if it means that I can help them without them selling their house, I'm gonna go that route too, right? I walked in the door of several people's homes and found out that I could help them with the issue that they had, and I didn't have to buy their house. And even though that might have cost me time and money, we did it anyway, because it's the right thing to do. Because these are people's homes, right? And they're in a tough situation, and I don't want to take advantage of that. And I don't want to be a person that makes money on a community and then doesn't do all I can to help people in that community. And so we went into somebody's house, and they were selling it because they were behind on payments. And they just didn't know what they were going to do. They were going to lose it in a couple of months, and they just needed some more time. And so they decided they wanted to sell it so that they could at least make the money that they had before losing it to the bank. And what they needed was time. They didn't need to sell. And so I went ahead and paid their mortgage for the next 2 months and paid their utilities for the next 2 months, because that bought them 2 more months of time to figure out how they could maintain their home. And so we caught them up on their payments, or got them closer so that they could stay longer, right? Did it cost me money? Sure. But was it the right thing to do? In my opinion, it was, right? So don't lose sight of the fact that these homes or properties that you buy are people's homes, and they're looking for help. And if you can help them in some other way, do that, right? Because I've also bought deals because I helped people out of situations. They sent me other people who I did end up buying deals from, right? So being of service to people is more important than making money to them. And I will always try to figure out ways to be of service to people. And then I share as much knowledge as I can, right? I give as much information away as I can. I give it away for free. My Instagram is full of free information because I feel like this is life-changing information. It's not difficult, right? The how you can figure out, right? It's more about convincing yourself up here that you can do it. And so educating yourself financially, that's not something I had access to. This wasn't a thing when I was in college. You guys are lucky. You guys are lucky. This is amazing. When I was in college, nobody taught us this stuff. And so I had to go figure it out when I was 37. And so you guys have this unique opportunity to get this knowledge at a young age, which is going to just help make you more and more wealth. And so just understand that as you start to acquire that wealth, as you start to acquire this information that not a lot of people get. This isn't a thing at every school, y'all. Right? Like, you're getting information that people don't always get access to, that they have to go figure out on their own. Don't take that for granted. Give it away to somebody else. Teach other people, right? I am a firm believer and that none of this is for me, none of this is for us. Yes, I get to be the beneficiary and take advantage of the wealth that's created. I get to take advantage of the information that's created. But I feel I have a responsibility to teach, educate, and give it away. Give away the wealth, give away the information, because it's not for me. I was blessed with it so that I could share it and teach it to others, because that creates this ripple effect of goodness and of good people who are out here doing good things and not just taking advantage of people. Right? And you hear it all the time from wealthy people, right? Everybody's heard stories of wealthy people who amassed all this wealth and then they lost it in some crazy, random, tragic story. And when I look more into those stories, I always start to see that they were selfish in some way. They weren't giving that information. They weren't being good stewards of the information and of the wealth that they were providing. So be a good steward of what you get, and you will always, always have it. Oh, what would I tell college students looking to invest in real estate? So how many of you are house hacking right now? Nobody's house hacking. One person, two people. How many of you know what house hacking is? About half the room. All right, so we'll talk about house hacking real quick. House hacking is where you buy a property and you rent it out, but you live in it. So your rent basically helps you live for a whole lot less or for free, right? So you can buy a duplex, live on one side, rent the other. You can buy a single family, live in one room, rent out the other rooms, right? You can buy a single family, live in one room, Airbnb some rooms, right? There's a ton of ways. It's just a way you take a property and then you generate income from the property that you're living in. That's why it's called house hacking, right? You can do a live-in flip, that's also considered a house hack, where you are fixing up a house that you were living in because you plan on selling it as a flip, right? That's a form of house hacking. And so, college students, man, you have this unique situation where you can get into real estate so cheap and change your life right now, forever, right? Because you can house hack. Because when I was in college, I had roommates. I rented an apartment, and then I had a roommate to help me rent the apartment, because why not? Because you want to hang out with your friends, and you don't want to spend $1,000 when you can spend $500, right? So, you're going to have roommates all through college. Why not have those roommates pay you? Right? How many students in here have a part-time job? Okay, so most of you have a part-time job, which means you're probably paying rent somewhere, and then you go and you work and you make a little bit of money so that you can have some money to go have some fun or do some things or pay some bills, whatever that is, right? And so you can house hack, right? So you can take and go get an FHA loan to buy a property. And instead of buying a single family, you can buy a duplex, right? You gotta pay 3.5% down, right? That's a very small down payment. Ask your parents to help you, it's no big deal. 3.5% down to get a down payment. And then you can live in the duplex, right? And let's say you buy a duplex that's a 2-bed, 1-bath, or let's call it a 3-bed, 2-bath, right? And so you rent out the other side and you're in a college town. So you rent it by the bedroom, right? How much can you get rent for a bedroom here? $600 a month for a bedroom. Right? So there's 3 beds on one side. How much is that on one side? $1,800, right? $1,800 on one side, and then you can rent out your side. You got 2 more bedrooms, right? So another $1,200. How much is that a month? Somebody speak up. $3,000, right? And let's say you pay what's a 3-bed, 2-bath duplex? Both sides go for it in Chattanooga.
$280.
$280. What's your mortgage on $280? With a 3.5% down.
$1,300.
Ballpark.
Private mortgage insurance.
$1,400. But you're making $3,000, right? So that means what's that? $3,000 minus 13. What do you get to put in your pocket? $1,700 a month in your pocket. Okay? If you have a part-time job, you don't need one. Right? You can go buy a duplex, and you could be doing this right now. $1,300 a month, and then let's say you keep your part-time job, because builds character, all those awesome things people tell you to go get a part-time job. So you keep your part-time job, you're making $1,300 a month. You take that $1,300 a month, you put it in a savings account, right? And then in a year, because you only have to live in a duplex for a year, you can go buy another one. You're single. Why wouldn't you? You can do it all over again. You won't be able to use an FHA. Because you already used one, you have to refinance it. But you can buy a conventional. And on a conventional, you may have to put 20% down, right? But you can save the money for a year. So you can take that money you saved, put 20% down. Now you rent out the bedroom you were living in, and you go do it again in another unit, right? Oh, while you're going to school, all you're doing is living. You're just getting paid to do it now. So you do it in another building, so you get another duplex. And so in a couple of years of college, you can have 2 duplexes paying you to live instead of you paying money to live. Most people's largest expense is their living expense. And so now you can not only eliminate your living expense, but get paid to do it. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do it? You should be figuring out how to do that right now, right? As a college student, because now you've got duplexes that are in a college town. This town is obviously growing and expanding and getting better, right? You've got major towns around you that are expanding at such a rapid rate. That's just a matter of time before it spills over if it's not already spilling over here, right? So now you've got duplexes in an up and coming community. I don't know, man, that's a cheat code for me. I've been doing that already, right? Repeat it every 12 to 24 months. So even after you graduate, don't go buy your dream home. Go buy another one. Keep house hacking. Keep house hacking until you get married and your significant other goes, I am not living in another duplex, buy me a house. Do it every year. Why not? Why not? You can buy them on the open market because you're more focused on finding something where the rents are going to be high enough to pay your mortgage. You're going to get the benefits of appreciation and debt pay down. Oh, and you're getting a huge tax benefit because the government is going to look at each one of these assets as a depreciating asset, even though we know they're going up in value. And so one of the best friends of my business is my rental portfolio, because I can claim a depreciation expense on the taxes and I can write off depreciation, and that offsets all the gains that I'm making by flipping houses. And so as you go into the corporate world and you get your job, you're going to be making a great salary. But W-2 earners are the highest taxed, right? And so you're going to be looking for ways to offset your taxes. Now you've got these properties. And so owning the properties is going to allow you to keep more of the money you're going to go make from your day job anyway, right? It's a cheat code, man. It's a cheat code. So I would be looking to do that if I was a college student. Other thing I would do is, you know, I thought I was going to tell you to come in here and quit and go into real estate, right? You should get a job. At your age, coming out of school, go get a job. Leverage that job to help build your business. Your job is your very first investor in your business. Because having that salary, that income coming in, it makes you super bankable. Banks love it when you have a day job. Like, I make more now teaching and coaching real estate and from my rental portfolio than I did in my day job. I can make my year's salary in a couple of months. And the banks go, I don't know, you don't have a job. I don't know if we want to give you any money. Even though I can show them that I make more than my day job in a few months, right? Having the job, banks love it, it's security. It makes you super bankable. And so you can grow and scale a portfolio really quickly because you have a good job. The banks, especially small local banks, are going to want to throw money at you, right, in order to do these deals. So leverage that. Take that money that you're making. Now you've got a few duplexes if you were house hacking. Maybe you just have one. So you got that income, right? You've got a part-time job. That was bringing you income. Then you leave and you go get a good job, right? And so now you're making your 6-figure income and you still got your rental properties. Man, you're making some good money. But if you are smart enough to take some of that money and start to get good at finding good deals and then start buying other rental properties, you can build a portfolio so much quicker. That's how I grew my portfolio so fast, right? Because I had a day job. I just quit my day job 5 months ago, right? So I was working for Walmart, or I was working for corporate America 5 months ago. But what that allowed me to do was I could take the money that I was making and I could then go and grow my portfolio. And these small local banks, instead of we talk about financing, these small local banks can be really flexible with how they loan to you. Each small local bank can be a little different, right? But they need small businesses to loan to. That's how they make their money. And so if you can show that you know what you're doing, that you've already got a property or two, right? They can give you some favorable terms. I don't have to pay anything when I buy a property. My bank said, hey, as long as you bring me a deal that's 75% of the ARV, we'll give you all the money you need, right? And so I know those are a lot of terms. So what that means is if a house is worth 100 after it's fixed up, as long as I don't need more than $75,000 to buy it and fix it, I don't have to bring any money to the table, right? But I did that because I worked with small local banks and I told them what I wanted, Right? Are you going to get those terms when you first start? No, probably not. But you may get favorable terms when you like to bring 10%, 15%, 20%, right? You can negotiate those things with small local banks. And so if you've got a day job where you're making money, and you've got a rental property or two already that's making you money, it'll be easy for you to save up enough to get a down payment to buy a property. And then once you have a property, or if you've already got that duplex, sometimes you can pledge the equity in that duplex as your down payments for your properties. You can either do that by taking a line of credit on the equity and then using that line of credit as your down payment to buy more property, or you can do what's called cross-collateralization. And that means that the bank will allow you to use the equity or leverage the equity in the property, pledge it as the down payment for your next property. And so having the day job gives the banks comfortability to want to give you these types of loans to help you grow your portfolio. And so go get that job, go to work, because you're going to learn some valuable skills when you go to work about business that you can use when you decide to retire, right? And at that rate, if you guys go to work and start building a portfolio, you can retire a lot sooner than those people. So go get your job, use that job to invest in your business, and then max those 401ks out. That's free money. I wish I would have done that. I had people stand up on stages and tell me to do it, and I blew them off too. So most of you will do that. But that 401k match is free money. And if you put yourself in a situation, the reason I didn't do it, or the reason I told myself I wasn't going to do it, is because that job was my only source of income. And so I didn't want to minimize what I was making every month. But if you're buying property already, if you're house hacking, you've got a source of income, right? If you've got a couple of properties, there's your extra income. Take the income you're making at your day job and max out your 401k, because that'll give you some diversification, and it's free money. It's free money, so take it. I'm happy to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I want to have a conversation, but I've been talking most of the time. So if you guys have questions about anything, man, please feel free.
Was the job that you left in Walmart, did you go straight to that job, or did you like start off working in the stores?
Yeah, no, I went straight to the corporate. I was working in, I was living in Virginia Beach. I went to college in Virginia, and Walmart called me out of the blue and asked me that I want to move to Arkansas to work for Walmart, and I was like, no. And then I ended up taking the job because they offered me twice what I was making in a market that was substantially cheaper to live in. So I was like getting 2 raises. And so my plan was to work for Walmart for a year, save a bunch of money, and then go back to Virginia Beach and been in Arkansas for 12 years now. So
You said you didn't have any good credit when you started.
yeah.
How do you get around that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you're going to leverage other people's money, right, meaning you don't just have a stockpile of cash, then you need good credit, right? So for me, once I made the decision, I knew I had to fix my credit. And so I hired a company that helped me fix up my credit. So they filed some disputes and made some calls and talked to some people and kind of helped get my credit in a better place. But I also had to go look at my credit report, because I pulled my credit report from all 3 agencies to see what was bringing me down, and I had to pay some stuff. And I had to pay some stuff that I didn't feel like I should have had to pay, right? I had some things on there that I felt like weren't my responsibility, that I was willing to that I was fighting battles for. And I had to go ahead and bite the bullet and pay that stuff. I didn't want to, but me paying that stuff raised my credit score and put me in a place to where now I'm financially free. And so you gotta fix your credit, fix it, call somebody. There's tons of credit repair people. There's tons of people that specialize in helping fix your credit. You can get help, you can do it on your own, but you need good credit if you're gonna leverage other people's money. Private money, bank money, hard money, they all wanna check your credit. Even if they're asset-based lenders, they're still gonna look at your credit.
Do you have your real estate license?
No ma'am, no real estate license. I never wanted to get my real estate license, so I'll give you my 2 cents, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think if you're going to be a real estate agent, if you want to help people buy and sell homes, and you want to be good at that, go get your license. If you just want to invest, I wouldn't get your license, because you're taking this real estate license and you're basically saying, I'm going to be a real estate agent, but you're not really focused on being a good one. And there's typically more agents than there are homes for sale, because everybody wants to be an agent. And I think good agents are hard to find and are absolutely necessary. I have a phenomenal real estate agent. I could never do what he does, so I'm glad he does it. So no, I don't have my license. I just rely on the good agents to help me. I got a couple hands. She said, do you think Airbnb is a good investment for college students? Sure. Sure, it can be. I think any niche can be a good investment for anyone. Everybody has a superpower, right? And so figure out what yours is and leverage that. So, yeah, Airbnb is great. You just have to remember with Airbnb, if you're going to manage it yourself, Airbnb is not the rental business. It's not the real estate business. It's the hospitality business. So if you don't have an interest in being in the hospitality industry, which is providing an experience for people, right? Then don't do it, because that's what I did when I had an Airbnb, and I realized quickly that I wasn't in the rental business, because whenever my cleaner would back out on me, I was the one having to go clean up in between people, and I quickly realized that that's not what I wanted to be doing, and so I converted it back to a long-term rental. But if you have some people just love being in the hospitality industry and providing an experience for people when they come and stay. Absolutely, it can be. You just have to, again, everything is about buying it right. If you can buy your property at the right price point so that you know it's going to make money, no matter what strategy you do, then you've mitigated your risk. Because if Airbnb somehow doesn't work for you, you can pick a different strategy because you bought it right to have options. Don't buy a property that only works as an Airbnb. Because if you somehow doesn't rent like you want it to, or if you somehow, life happens and your situation changes and you need to pivot, you need another way to make money on the property. But a lot of people will overpay for a property because you make more as Airbnb, and then they come to find out that they're not getting the rents that they thought they could get. And Airbnb is seasonal. You're gonna make great money some months and not great money some other months, right? And so you have to account for all these things. So I would say as a college student, mitigate your risk, buy a deal that works as multiple strategies, and then if you wanna use it for Airbnb, great.
Which one of your deals cash flows the most? Like, is it like a multi-unit? Where did you find it?
That's a great question. Which one of my deals cash flows the most, and where did I find it? Yeah, so the deal that cash flows the most for me, I've got 4 duplexes. They're all on one street. They're in a cul-de-sac. This is a great one. Good question. Somebody give that guy a high five. So I bought this property, 4 duplexes on one street. It's actually 4 duplexes and 2 empty lots. The 2 empty lots were also duplexes at one point, but drugs are bad and fires happen. So 6 became 4. And so what happened was, how I found it, is I was driving for dollars. Everybody know what driving for dollars means? Yes? Okay, I'm gonna pretend like everybody said yes. I was driving for dollars, and I came across an apartment building and a trailer park, all right next to each other. And I said, that's cool, I want that. And so I wrote down the address and I looked up the owner. And when I found the owner, I saw that the title company that the owner used to close the deal, like the notary stamp, was the same title agent that I used to close all my deals. And so I called her and I said, hey Brandy, I saw that you closed this deal on 123 Main Street and so-and-so owns it. And she was like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. Do you want to talk to him? And I was like, yeah, I want to talk to him. And so she set up a meeting and I went and I chatted with the guy. And he took us out. We told him we want to buy the property. He took us out there. We looked at it, and he wanted more than we could pay for it. And we were leaving, and I said, right before I left, I said the one thing everybody needs to say every time they meet with an investor. What did I say? Do you have anything else? Exactly, right? And he was like, I got these 4 duplexes, but they're bad, man. You don't want those. And I was like, no, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. He was like, no, man, they're really, really rough. And I was like, perfect. So he was like, well, you can go look at it, but I'm not going. And I was like, all right, you have keys? And he was like, nah, man, do you have a power drill? If you got a power drill, you can get in, right? So I was like, all right. So we went out there with a power drill, and all the doors were drilled shut, and there were actually 2 people living in 2 of the units that should not have been living anywhere in that place. And it was really, really bad. Really, really bad. And so we went back to him, we told him we would buy him if the price was right. And he basically said, if you'll give me what the bank wants, what I still owe on them, you can have them. And so he owed $200,000. And so we paid $200,000 for 4 duplexes. And we spent about $100,000 fixing them up. And each one rents for $850 a door right now. So we're all in for about $325. When we get $850 a door on 8 doors, that's probably one of my best cash flowing deals. We could probably go up in rents now that the market shifted. And then we've got 2 lots still, so the potential on those 2 lots is even higher. We're probably gonna build triplexes on those 2 lots. And so that's probably my best cash flowing deal to date.
So your marketing deals, techniques you use.
Yes, what are some of the marketing techniques I use to get deals coming to me? Yeah, I use direct mail. Direct mail is my best marketing strategy. I call myself like a real estate old school. Most people are doing like text messages and cold calls and all that stuff to my deal. I just send mail. I market to absentee owners. I really like owner occupieds. You guys should be writing this down if you're looking for deals. This is good stuff, FYI. So I really like to market to owner occupieds who have owned the house for 20 years or more. I get a lot of good deals from that list. But I just send mail and I follow up, right? I set appointments and follow up and offer on everything. It's not rocket science, man. I send tons of mail.
Henry, so you said you follow up. Do you wait for the owner to reach back out to you, then you set the follow up, or do you skip trace and then call?
I do both, right? So when I do mail, and then I set the appointments, I make the offers, and then I follow up. So what that means is if they didn't accept the offer right away, I'm calling them in a couple of days and just saying, hey, this is Henry, I made you the offer, what are you thinking, right? And I try to get them to talk to me a little more about what they're thinking. Because chances are if they didn't accept your offer and they haven't got back to you, they didn't like your number. And so I call back to try to get them to give me the number they're really looking for now that I put a number out there, and we can usually negotiate and come to an agreement. If they want to sell, if they don't, we can. I follow up, and then I follow up even if they say no that time, right? I'll call them back in another month. There's so much money in your follow-up. Most people talk to somebody one time, they say no, you don't talk to them again. But those people will sell. If they went through all that, they're considering selling. So I continue to follow up. So I follow up on the follow-up, and then I skip trace. So I take do not return to senders. So anybody who sends mail gets return mail to them, and that's usually someone who isn't getting mail from other people, the competitors. And so I'll skip trace those return to senders and find the actual address. Well, I have a VA that does it. And then I send those people mail. And now you're marketing to people who probably haven't gotten mail from anybody. So there's great money in that too.
What skip tracer do you use, and then what mailing service?
REI skip trace, call him if you want to send mail. He'll pull the list for you. He will send the mail for you. All you have to do is call him and say, this is the budget that I want to spend and I want to send mail. He's specialized, he does mail for some of the biggest names in the country. He's really good at knowing what mail works in what markets. And so if you want to send mail and you want it to be really easy, you can call this guy and say, hey, I want to send mail in this market. What mail piece should I use? What list should I pull? And how much is it going to cost me? And he will get you going. He is who I use. Cody Sperber uses him. Like there's huge people that use this guy. His name is Corey Meeker. And his phone number is 314-413-7878. Tell him Henry told you to call him all at once. He'll love it.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yep, Corey Meeker. You can also shoot him a text message, 314-413-7878. He is invaluable to my business. This is what he does for a living. Give him a call, tell him I sent you. Thank you. Sure. So he asked, what's my portfolio look like and what's my favorite? So I have about 70 doors. My biggest property is a 12 unit. So I've got a 12 unit property. I've got an 8 unit property. I've got a 5 unit property. I've got a 4 unit property. And I've got a triplex. And then a bunch of duplexes and some singles. So not a lot of large multifamily, but I like it that way. My favorite, oh man, that's a great question. Duplexes are my favorite. I really like duplexes. Thank you, everybody.
Very much. We're going to give a round of applause.
Yep, scoot up, ask questions. That's what I'm here for. What I like about small real estate, local real estate, is I like to see the impact that I'm having on the community. Small local real estate gives me the warm fuzzies, right? And when you start to get into larger real estate, it's less about the people and it's more about the people. And that's just not my cup of tea. I like helping the people in these small local communities. I like driving by my properties and seeing kids playing outside and seeing families enjoying the properties that we renovated and taken care of. And you just don't get that with large multifamily. So I like duplexes because I kind of get a multifamily feel. You get some of the insulation that you get by having more people under the roof, but you still get that small community feel. I know there's money in apartments and big things, but it's just not my cup of tea.
You recommended local banks, and you didn't recommend like private entities to get the money. So, any reason that you are not going with the big banks? Or...
Yeah, so he asked why I'm using small banks and not big banks. So small local banks need business from small local investors to stay in business. And if they need you more than you need them, they can be a whole lot more flexible. Big banks aren't flexible because most of the time when they get a mortgage, the first thing they're doing is selling it, right? They're selling it to somebody else. And because they're selling it, they have to make sure that each loan meets all this strict criteria because the buyers of those mortgages only want to buy certain types of mortgages, right? These small banks are called portfolio lenders. They're called portfolio lenders because they keep the loans in their portfolio in their bank. They don't resell them. And so because they're keeping these loans in-house, they can be a whole lot more flexible with the rates, with the terms, and all the other things that come with that. And so I can now walk into a bank because I have a portfolio, I have a history of making profits, right? And I have a business that they can trust. So I can walk into a small local bank, right? And the conversation's a little different. I know they need me. I know I'm good at what I do. And so when I walk in a bank, I don't just walk in a bank and say, hi, I'm Henry. I'm looking to buy a rental property. What can you do for me? That's not how the conversation goes. I walk in a bank and I say, hey, I'm Henry. I've got 123 Main Street under contract. I've got 70 rental deals. I've grossed X amount in flips this year. And I'm looking to buy this property. I would like a 25-year amortization. I would like a 3.5% interest rate. And I would like to put as little down as possible. Preferably none, no more than 10%. Is that something you can work out for me, right? Because they're in business to be of service to me. And too many times we walk into banks and we treat banks like they're doing us a favor because we're asking for money. But they're a business and they're a service business. They have to lend to you to stay in business. And so I go to them and I say, I don't go to them and say, what can you do for me? I go to them and say, I have this deal. I'm looking for funding on this deal. If you would like to fund this deal, I've got more business for you because I've got 70 properties, right? I do X amount of deals a year. This is the money that I'm making. But for me to do business with you, these are the rates and terms that I'm looking for. Can you meet those rates and terms, right? And then that changes the conversation because now they want to do business with people who are good at doing good deals, right? Now I've shown them history of doing good deals. And they can be flexible. So I told them what I want. So now it's their job to go figure out if they can give it to me or not. So now they've got ammo to go to their loan committee and say, hey, I know this is not what we normally lend, but let's consider making an exception for this person because look at their history. And you also have to think about if you're good at buying good deals, banks will be flexible with you. Because let's say, for example, we used an example, if a house is worth $100,000, let's say I'm buying it for 50, right? That bank was going to lend to me, and they may lend to me favorably because at the end of the day, if they get that house back, let's say I foreclose on that note, right? They get a house back that I paid 50 for, so now they've got a $50,000 house that's worth 100. Let's say they sell it for 70, 75, right? They make $25,000. They weren't going to make $25,000 off of me for interest payments for a year or two, right? They make a ton more money if I foreclose. So if you can buy good deals, it gives them confidence that like, hey, even if this guy screws up, we make money.
I love your thoughts about it.
Thank
so
you.
I would like to know how you cope with like business setbacks and business failures. What do you do to keep going?
I cry a lot. Man, it's part of life, right? And so I've learned that when setbacks happen, I like to give myself some time, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, to be in my feelings about it, right? And be grumpy and whatever it is you feel like you need to do. And then I get up and I go fix it. Because we're in the business of solving problems, other people's problems and our own problems. But I found I have to give myself that space to be pissy about some stuff, right? To be in my feelings about some stuff. And then I get up, dust myself off, and I go fix it, right? And so I allow myself to be upset for a little bit, and then I just go fix it. Setbacks are mental, right? They're part of any business. I don't care if you're in real estate, you're in school, you haven't had setbacks in school, right? It's gonna happen, right? But how you handle those setbacks is your choice. And what I found was if I didn't set a time and give myself the opportunity to be upset, then I would just be upset all the time. But now that I found that I give myself the grace and the time to be upset about it, I'm not even upset for the full amount of time I give myself because I'm already thinking, how do I get myself out of this? Like I've given myself the grace and I don't even use it anymore. So I hope that helps.
Do you have an office here locally?
No, I invest in Arkansas. These guys just found me on the street and asked me to come out here and talk. No, they met me in New Orleans at a conference and asked me to come speak here, yes.
I was curious how you structure your properties. Do you have them each in your own LLC?
Fair question.
Or how do you structure that?
Great question. He asked, do I have each property in its own LLC or do I have one LLC or how I structure my deals? That's a great question. So I have two LLCs. I have one for my properties. I have one for those 25 doors that are in a partnership that I talked about, right? So two LLCs. The reason I do that, right? So when you think about LLCs, those are entities, and those entities are for protection, right? That's technically what they're for. They're to protect you in the event that you get sued, that you don't lose all your assets or your personal assets, right? Your personal house, because you want to be able to have a roof over your head. And so when you think about protection with an LLC, when you file an LLC, that's basically a business entity. And then there's rules and things that you have to abide by for that business entity for it to maintain its business entity status. And so that if you get sued, it still looks like it's a business and not just you buying properties and acting like it's a business. And so if you have to have all your documents, your articles of organization and all those things. And then you have to have your yearly meeting, right, where you document those meeting minutes, right? And so there's a lot of different paperwork that needs to be tracked and filed with each LLC. If you are a very organized person and that stuff doesn't make you want to just break out in hives, then maybe you should consider having an LLC per property because you're really good at the details and keeping all that stuff in order and making sure you've got all that in a row. I'm not that guy. I won't do all that. And so even if I put an LLC for every property, if I'm not doing the things that I need to do for that still to be seen as an LLC, the second somebody sues me, any good lawyer is going to be able to pierce that corporate veil and I'll get sued anyway. And so I keep my properties in two LLCs because I know I can keep track of that. And it's easier for me. That's just how I do it. I'm not a lawyer, and so I'm not giving you tax advice. I'm not giving you LLC advice. You should talk to a lawyer, but I would say do whatever you feel like you can maintain.
In addition to lawyers, can you speak for just a moment about your relationship with any accountants and insurance people on behalf of your properties?
Yeah, so I have an insurance company that I use. Every time I buy a property, they basically give me a quote, and then I buy the policy because I have to have insurance because I'm using loans. And so find yourself a good real estate agent, right? A good insurance agent. You can do that by going to these meetings. There are people in these meetings who do insurance. But you want to find somebody who wants to work and grow with you and who wants to work with you the way you want to be worked with. And so I work with this guy. I may pay a little more for a policy with this guy than I would if I shop around, but this guy communicates with me the way I want to be communicated with. We talk via text. I don't have to spend a bunch of time. He does everything. All I do is say, hey, I'm buying 123 Main Street for 20 grand, I need insurance. And I text it to him. And he gets back to me with a quote, and then he has my card on file, and then I buy the policy. The time and communication savings is valuable to me. If I meet with somebody else, but they don't want to communicate with me like that, I got to pick up the phone every time. I got to answer a million questions about the property every time. That's a waste of my time. So find somebody who wants to work with you the way you want to be worked with, wants to communicate with you the way you want to communicate with, and build a relationship. So, so you said insurance and what else?
Your accountant for
Accounting. Yeah, that one's hard. That one's hard, right? And so we just recently started using, goodness, what's it called? It's a third-party service that we use. It's called the Real Estate CPAs. All they do is real estate taxes for real estate investors across the country. It's what they do. They're great at it. I learned the hard way that I just need to pay somebody who's really, really good at it to do it. And so they're expensive, but worth it in my opinion, because I don't have to think about anything.
And one more question.
Yep.
Have you taken advantage of the low interest rates and refinanced any of your older deals in the recent?
Great question. You guys are killing me with questions. Yeah, absolutely. So as soon as the rates dropped the first time, I went to my bank and I said, hey, I've got properties 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They all have a 5 to 6% interest rate. I'd like to throw those all in a portfolio loan. And so I put them all under one loan at a 4% interest rate, which lowered my payment substantially. And it kept me, and I had to, you restart the clock on your amortization, but the money I'm saving is huge over time. So even though I restarted the amortization, if you look at what I was gonna pay in interest in the old loans versus what I'm paying in interest now, I'm saving myself a ton of money in the long run, and I gave myself a raise every month because what my properties have to pay in mortgages decreased substantially.
I have a question about LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you had 2 LLCs?
3 years, 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years.
So that would be 3.5 to 4 years.
Yep.
And did you have both of them the same length of time, or one was before the other?
I had one before the other. I had one probably about 6 months before the other.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you find out?
So I tell all my students, I'm sure you guys can answer, but I tell all my students, it's usually out there in a Facebook group or there's usually a real estate investment group or club or somebody. And so I would just Google real estate investors, meetups, clubs, groups, and in the area, and then start seeing who's got websites and attending their events. They typically have a schedule of events. But that's how I found all the ones that I attend, is just by going to Google and then joining them. And then once I join them, I ask the other members what other groups they're a part of, and I start going to their groups as well.
All right, we got time for one more question, and then if you want to talk in after. Okay, last one.
Do you manage your own properties, and if so, what systems do you have in place? Do you use the apps?
Yes, I manage most of my own properties. We use rentready.com. They have an app, and they're very, I think it's like $9 a month or something. It's pretty inexpensive. And one thing I love about RentReady is it reports on-time rent payments to the credit bureaus. So it gives your tenants incentive to pay rent on time because it helps build their credit so that they can be ready to go and buy when they're ready to go.
All right, thank you very much, Henry. One more round.